Hi boys and girls, I'm back with another story today. And remember, we're working on author's purpose this week. I'll review it with you again. Author's purpose is when the author writes a story for a reason, and authors write a story for 3 reasons, and it spells out P-I-E, pie, either to persuade us, to inform us, or to entertain us. Now, when an author is writing to persuade us, we ask ourselves these questions. Did the author try to change my opinion? Did the author try to convince me of something? If so, the author is writing to persuade. If the author is writing to inform us of something, we ask ourselves, did the author give me facts? Did the author try to teach me something? If so, the author is writing to inform. If the author is writing the book to entertain us, we ask ourselves these questions. Did the author try to make me laugh? Did the author try to tell me a story? If so, the author is writing to entertain. So I have a new book for you today, and I want you to be thinking about these things as I read the story. Think about, is the author writing the story to persuade, inform, or entertain us as readers? Okay? And I may or may not have read this story already this year, but it's always great to revisit a book that we've already read before too. And we may not have talked about the author's purpose when I read this book before. So think about it. This book is called Click, Clack, Moo, Cows That Type. And it's written by Doreen Cronin and pictures by Betty Lewin. And it won the Caldecott Medal. We talked about that in class, right? All right. Click, clack, moo, cows that type. Farmer Brown has a problem. His cows like to type. All day long he hears click, clack, moo. Click, clack, moo. Clickety, clack, moo. And look at his face. He looks a little aggravated, doesn't he? Know what that means? Like annoyed, not so happy. At first, he couldn't believe his ears. Cows that type? That's impossible. Click, clack, moo. Click, clack, moo. Clickety, clack, moo. Looks like he's going over to the barn to see what's going on. Then he couldn't believe his eyes. Dear Farmer Brown, the barn is very cold at night. We'd like some electric blankets. Sincerely, the cows. Now the cows actually typed a letter to Farmer Brown. And what do they want? They want electric blankets because they're cold at night. Now, could this really happen? Remember we talked about this in class? That this is not a real story. This is fantasy, right? Cows cannot type letters. It was bad enough the cows had found the old typewriter in the barn. Now they wanted electric blankets. No way, said Farmer Brown. No electric blankets. So the cows went on strike. They left a note on the barn door, and the note said, "Sorry, we're closed. No milk today." So they decided if they're not going to get their electric blankets, they're not getting Farmer Brown any milk. "No milk today," cried Farmer Brown. In the background, he heard the cows busy at work. Click, clack, moo! Click, clack, moo! Clickety, clack, moo! And they're busy on that typewriter. The next day, he got another note. "Dear Farmer Brown, the hens are cold too. They'd like electric blankets. Sincerely, the cows." So now the cows are cold and the hens, and they all want electric blankets. Have you ever heard of such a thing? Could this happen in real life? No. Cows that type? Hens on strike? Who ever heard of such a thing? How can I run a farm with no milk and no eggs? Farmer Brown was furious. He is really mad. And that's their job around the farm. And you can see him in the background. See him back here with his arms in the air? He is mad. Farmer Brown got out his own typewriter now. "Dear cows and hens, there will be no electric blankets. You are cows and hens. I demand milk and eggs. Sincerely, Farmer Brown." So now he's writing the letter to them, telling them, "You're hens and cows. You need to give me your milk and eggs." What do you think the hens and cows will say to that? Oh. Duck was a neutral party, so he brought the ultimatum to the cows. Ultimatum is you do this or else. So here he is. The cows held an emergency meeting. All the animals gathered around the barn to snoop, but none of them could understand moo. All night long, Farmer Brown waited for an answer. Duck knocked on the door early the next morning. He handed Farmer Brown a note, and this is what the note says. "Dear Farmer Brown, we will exchange our typewriter for electric blankets. Leave them outside the barn door, and we will send Duck over with the typewriter. Sincerely, the cows." So now they decide to tell Farmer Brown that they will give him the typewriter and stop sending notes if he will give them electric blankets. What do you think Farmer Brown will do? Let's see. Farmer Brown decided this was a good deal. He left the blankets next to the barn door and waited for Duck to come with the typewriter. So look how cozy they all look with their electric blankets on. They look like they're nice and warm. The next morning, he got a note. "Dear Farmer Brown, the pond is quite boring. We'd like a diving board. Sincerely, the ducks. Click, clack, quack. Click, clack, quack. Clickety, clack, quack. So now, who are the notes coming from? Not the cows anymore, from the ducks. Uh-oh. You can see them typing the note. And guess what they got? They got their diving board. Now, boys and girls, after I've read this story, let's think about it. Think about author's purpose. Think about why the author wrote this story. What was going on in this story? Persuading, informing, or entertaining? Think about it long and hard. Tell someone that's next to you what you think it is. I'll give you a second. All right. If you said persuade, you are correct. Kiss your brain. Throughout this whole story, there was persuading. The cows were trying to persuade Farmer Brown throughout the whole story to give them what? Electric blankets. And it ended up working. And then at the end, the ducks were trying to persuade Farmer Brown to give them a diving board, and it ended up working, right? So throughout this whole story, the author was showing us how to persuade in the story. Get someone to do something for you, okay? It was also an entertaining book too, so it could be a little bit of both, right? So as you can see, in a story, an author writes a book for a reason, either to persuade, inform, and entertain. And in this book, we saw a lot of persuading going on with the cows and the ducks. Okay? I hope you enjoyed this story, and as you're reading your own books at home, try and keep these 3 things in mind as you read a story. At the end, say to yourself, wow, did the author write this book to persuade, inform, or entertain me? And talk about it with someone at home. I hope you enjoyed the story today. Have a great day, boys and girls.